go to he had it set up in his shed, which was freezing cold, either freezing cold or it was just too hot. But I used to go there every day, especially when I left school as well, when I really got into music. But like while I was at school, I used to go there most days, and I was just amazed by this drum kit. I just liked the look of it, and it just all felt new, and it felt. Do you know when you see something amazing for the first time? That's what it felt like, and I just like, I wish this was mine. And do you know what I mean? It was a Heyman kit. It was a gold sparkle Heyman kit, I remember, and it had this special white coating inside, which we ruined it because we sanded down, took all the gold wrap off, and we sanded down the white stuff that was inside, which was actually a part of the sound. We didn't know, but you know what? My friend still got that kit, and it still sounds amazing without that stuff. So yeah, I used to so when I started to go to college, I used to go when we had the time off. I used to go there every day and try and practice for like 6-8 hours a day, just because I had nothing better to do. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to play drums, and I was in a band that played really. It was quite complex music. It didn't feel complex to me because I was practicing all the time. You had to, if you didn't practice it, you could never play this music. It didn't sound complicated, but a lot of the musicians used to love it because I wouldn't say it was musicians' music, because we added like hip hop and all the things that we were influenced by, but then we were listening to Chick Corea and people like that. So obviously that reflected in the music. So we was really young, and we was just playing this fusion of music that we had heard, and you know, just it was just crazy. It was the hardest music even now that I played. I don't even know if I could play that stuff now. It was that crazy. Even if we were playing in 4/4, it wouldn't sound like we were playing in 4/4. I remember when we did shows, we could do about 7 songs because the audience would be completely exhausted if they could, because basically we'd do these songs and brilliant, like that. The writer was Anthony Tidd, and he's brilliant, and the subjects were brilliant. But then we had the long solo sections, and you know, we had a saxophone player what would do like a 5-minute solo if he felt like it. Do you know what I mean? And or if there was a drum solo, obviously my solos weren't as long as his, but they were still pretty. We just went for it. But
what was that band called? And does any of it still exist online or anything?
Yeah, just type in Quite Sane, you'll find stuff. But yeah, it does exist. I remember a friend told me a story about how he needed his friend to hear us. He had come from Australia and he had just heard us, and he was trying to explain it to his friend. No, his friend was trying to explain it to him, and his friend, he had a demo of us because we went to a university and we did a demo, and he recorded it, and it was in his friend's room, and he had to break into his friend's room to get this demo so he could just play it to a friend of his who now I'm really good friends with. His name's Marcel, and I do a load of production with him. I do a load of workshops. We've just put a new project together called Call for School, and it's callforschool.co.uk, I think it is, and it's basically a load of music for schools, and it's mixed with dance, and it's just, you have to go there and have a look at it. But it's a really good and exciting project that we've been doing for a while, and it's all coming together now. And yeah, that's really good. So yeah, I probably went off where I was.
That's fine. We've got time for that.
Do you remember your first show with that band?
Quite Sane. Where was our first show? Quite Sane. It was probably at the Orange. I don't even know if that club exists now. I think it was up in Fulham.
Okay.
The Orange Jazz. No, it wasn't. It was in a place in Brentwood called, was it called the Monkeys or something like that? I can't remember. That was my first show with Quite Sane, I think. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then we ended up playing in we played in Jazz Cafe so many times, and we played in all of the popular like London venues when there were London venues. Like they're all disappearing now. But yeah, we did a lot from a young age. You know, we were quite lucky, and I think, and then we got put into a competition for Capital Radio and became Band of the Year for that year. Yeah, it was just like, that was my apprenticeship of music, I would say. That's where I learned all my stuff. And we used to rehearse like mad.
So self-taught.
Yeah, we were self-taught. But yeah, we were really serious young musicians at that time. That's, you know, I wanted to be the best drummer in the world. Now I don't, obviously, but then that's all I wanted to do. You know, I loved drummers like Dave Weckl, Dennis Chambers, Billy Cobham. Who's the guy what played for Michael Jackson a lot? Something, I can't remember his name now. That's bad, but they were my influences. You know, Chick Corea was one of our biggest influences. What was his band called? No, Chick Corea's electric band. That's what it was. But he had a song called "Got a Match," which we loved, and we learned that song, and it was crazy. Yeah. And then
so how did you move from drumming into production? Because most of the time that I've known you, you've actually been a producer, you know, and a songwriter.
Yeah, I did both. I mean, I always wanted to do production. I used to go around my friend's house and he used to have all the equipment when he was writing stuff for the band. And I was like, oh, I really would love to have a studio like this. So I ended up borrowing a sequencer and borrowing other friends' equipment. I had a QY20, I had an Atari, and a little like DX21 keyboard. That none of this stuff was mine. I just borrowed it off all my friends. I kept it for months and I was just learning how to produce. That was my first little setup I used to have. Yeah, so it all came. I used to do a lot of stuff, and I used to do this thing called the Apricot Jam, where basically everybody that was on the scene, especially on the hip hop scene, used to come through and perform. And I used to be in a house band for that. And that's why I went to get the studio, because I went to work with them but doing production. So I applied for a Prince's Trust loan, which the first time I did it, I just did it, sent it off, and I didn't think of anything of it. And they replied to me saying that we really want to give you the funds. You just need to tweak your business plan a little bit. So that's when a friend of mine, again, who I still work with, who I do the Call for School stuff with, came in and he helped me just tweak my business plan. And then I got some funds, and then I went and bought my first equipment, my first studio gear. And then from that's when I started basically working with everybody. That's
funny. Like, I actually got a Prince's Trust loan as well.
Yeah,
and really, that's how I started out as well. So yeah, I guess that works.
You know, the thing was, I didn't think I was gonna get it, because like everybody, when there was a lot of people applying for that loan to do the same thing. So somehow I must have stood out. I don't know. I can't remember what. Actually, I have got my business plan somewhere still, but I can't remember what I wrote in it. But yeah, luckily they gave it to me, and that really was the beginning of my production and studio engineering kind of time.
Yeah, it's actually weird. I was talking to someone the other day about New Deal for musicians and things like that as well. And I feel like some of those kind of grants and initiatives to kind of help creatives in the past actually worked, because almost everybody that I know that is doing it now and has done it for a number of years kind of benefited from those things back in the day.
They definitely did. I mean, I had no money. Do you know what I mean? I was doing loads of gigs, but we wasn't making any money. And, you know, when you first start off as a live musician, you don't make any money. And if you do get paid, it pays your travel, and that's it, if you're lucky. But yeah, that was a big change in my life when I got that funding. You know, I remember I bought a Spirit Desk 24, what they called Spirit 24. I had a what else did I buy? I bought an Akai 3000 CD 3000 sampler, which I still got down there. What else did I get?
It's so funny because the equipment
I still had to borrow things because I didn't have anything to record vocals on. So I was using, what was the Roland VS? What was it called? The Roland. Do you remember that grey unit? The Roland.
Yeah, like the almost like a digital 4-track type thing. Yeah.
A member of the family had one of them, and then I just hijacked that for a little while, and then I eventually bought a Akai DR16. and I used that, and then from which I loved, and then I moved on to PC, and then I just did everything in Logic. I started off in Cubase. I did everything in Cubase. I started off using Logic, and then I moved to Cubase for recording vocals and stuff, which I used for quite a long time. And then I moved on from that to Logic on a Mac. I mean, Cubase, Logic on a Mac. I started using Logic on a Mac, and then I moved on to the best program ever, which is Studio One.
It's funny, actually working on a project with you in Studio One. Yeah, I ended up in Studio One as well, and that's kind of my primary goal now.
People, they should endorse me. I've compared so many people to use that software. It's been crazy, but it is absolutely amazing. It is.
I'm sure that
my introduction into studios was making tea and coffee. So it was like old school. They had they had tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was that, and just 16, leaving school, and just wanting to get into to a studio. So just volunteered and just observed and kept looking, and then took it from there.
I kind of say that as a joke to everybody, but I kind of mean it. That when I started out, the first job that I had was tea and coffee, and anybody that knows me knows how seriously I take tea and coffee now. I feel like it's been a long, kind of lifelong pursuit, and I'm only now starting to get good at it. So
you'd be so disappointed in me if you could taste the coffee that I'm drinking now. It's just disgusting.
This one's great.
Yeah, I rushed, and I just chose the wrong one, and now I'm just drinking it, and
cool,
enjoying it.
So, on to the kind of subject at hand, the things that stopped me creating over the last year, and so there's a monthly newsletter on the floor, and I was kind of asked to write a piece for it. So I thought of 5 things that stopped me creating and how I fixed those things. And then I kind of, in the newsletter, I didn't include the things that had stopped me. I just included the solutions, essentially. So I'm going to put the things that stopped me on the screen, and I'll tell you what I do to kind of counteract some of those things, try and help myself, and then I'll if you could chip in, that would be wicked. Procrastination. I feel like that stopped me so many times last year. The amount of times I moved things around the house, or kind of rearranged some shoes, or hoovered again instead of going to the studio and just getting on with my work.
Basically get inside.
And what I've kind of done that really has helped me is that I started making more lists. So when I wake up in the morning, I make a list, and it's like absolutely top 5 must do things for the day. And I try and get one of them done before lunch. That's literally just how my day goes now. Is
your list just musical stuff, or is it just...
No, it can be really, really basic stuff. Like, I've got a thing on my phone that, I mean, I've still got 3 things left on my list for today. But yeah, it can be all kinds of things. So one of the things on my list today was I wanted to buy some Play-Doh. Don't know why. Thought of it yesterday, thought, oh, okay, actually, whilst I'm doing stuff like just making something would be cool. So, drink more water, things like that. Drink a glass of water, yeah. So it can be small things or it can be really big things, but I make a list. And I absolutely get one of them done before lunchtime. Procrastination. Is that something that's affected either of you, or?
Yeah, especially at the beginning, big time. As you know, LeVar, I can't work in messiness, even if it's not in the studio. So if my kitchen has not got washing up or anything like that, I have to do that first before I can get in the studio and start working. But like you, I my days were merging into one. I didn't know exactly what to do. Some days I would get up and just be like, oh, what am I going to do today? And I hated the day. I had no focus. So then I started getting a routine. So I started online gym thing with my personal trainer. I started doing that every morning from July. I've been doing it now every morning, gym, because I was just eating rubbish and just it was getting out of hand. So gym every morning. I've actually added to that now, so I go out for a walk every morning. That's the first thing I do. Get up, go out for a walk, try and do at least 10,000 steps a day in the morning, and then come back. I do my gym. Once I've done my gym, then I start doing stuff in the studio, you know. Or if I'm not doing stuff in the studio, then I'll watch a lot more tutorials than I've ever watched in my life. Like, and I'm really trying to learn, because I use a lot of plugins and stuff, but I just use them more as I don't necessarily know what they all do. So I was just using them as like for sound. If it sounded nice to me, if I got a weird sound out of it, that's how I would use it. But I didn't actually know what these buttons were doing. So I just started looking at the plugins and just typing them in YouTube and learning what these knobs meant. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. And even just mixing as well, because I wanted to become better at mixing stuff. So I've been watching lots of mix tutorials. Produce Like a Pro is one of my favorites so far. Been watching that a lot. And just simple things, like things that I already know, I was revisiting, like, you know, how to get the best sound out of a mic, you know, how to things like even how to balance my speakers, you know, and put a tone through and make them even, all things like that. I still need to do that a bit more, but it's just simple stuff. Or even if there was like Studio One, I know how to use Studio One, but then I wanted to know more about, there's so many elements to it, you can't learn it all. And like some of these elements just make your workflow a lot better. So even that, and how to arrange my sessions properly in Studio One. So when I hand them over to you, you're like, oh, this makes sense. Not work like a madman and not name things and have everything all over the place. I've become really organized with my sessions now. And that's due to talking to you as well, Lav, and how to set things up.
So just for anybody that's watching that, doesn't know what any of us do outside of this, quite often I work as a mix engineer, and I've worked on a number of projects with Cassell where he works on the songwriting and production and then gives it to me and I mix it and try and make it sound better. That's kind of that's our relationship. And and a lot of the time there'll be things that I'll get the session from him, and there'll be things where I'm like, Cass, have done this better, would have made my life easier. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like over the last year, everything that you've given me has been so much better. And whatever you're doing with kind of learning from tutorials, looking online, doing whatever, is working, because everything that you've given me has been 10 times better. So, yeah.
But even the way I approach it now, like after talking to you, because I used to do everything in one session. So I produce, obviously, have all my plugins and not treat the mix as a separate thing. Because when I do stuff, I mix as I go along anyway. But like on the last few mixes I've been doing, I've actually been just stemming out everything. So all I get in my mix session, I make a new session for mixing, and all that's in my mix session is just stems with everything bounced down. So for two reasons that's good. One, if I want to just give it to Lavar, he can make sense of it straight away. Everything's organized, everything's sent to the right buses. The reverbs are bounced down on their own channels. So if he wants to change any reverbs, he can. And also, if there's any plugins that someone else hasn't got, they've got it because I bounced it down. But also, the last mix I did like that, and it came out really well. And it was just the stems, and all I did is I added some stuff to I added like a tape machine, or what's the thing we are using now? It's called Pure Console 7. I added that to all my tracks. And then to my buses, I added the Pure Console Bus 7. And then I added just a few tape emulators and a few things like that, but everything was there. So there's been times when I do a drop in a song and I just want it to be silenced, but because you've got reverbs going and you have to do an automation to cut it, it's just like, this is long. But that just wasn't an issue anymore. I could just cut it and get my clean silence. Everything sounded cleaner. I could place things better in the speakers. You know, I used a bit of stereo imaging to make it sound bigger. It was just on the mix. I did that, and I did end up doing a few little production things, but it's easier for me to edit WAV files than it is to do like MIDI files. I always bounce down my MIDI now to audio files, which I didn't do years ago, which is a pain, because if you ain't got the modules anymore, you can't remember how you did something, it's a pain. So now everything gets printed down to audio, which is cool.
It's kind of weird, because the second thing on my list was about making little changes and doing little bits every day, and it adding up. So the idea of you training a little bit every day, learning a little bit every day, and then implementing those changes, it does add up to like a big thing. I actually speak to Peps all the time, and that's something that we talk about quite a lot, is just small things and doing them every day. You know, getting out and going for a walk, and just, you know.
Funny, my procrastination came from being indoors. I think there was a point in so I was, you know, I mix live front of house and do some touring apart from all my production work. So there was, you know, I had a world tour lined up for this year. And I've been working in Brighton in the local venue there, and we had so many shows in and out throughout the year, and then it just stopped. Everything stopped in that March. So I was like, I'll be fine. I'm used to it. I can be locked in. Is what I do. I couldn't think. I just couldn't. I had so much adrenaline and energy just to go that for the spring summer, that I just couldn't focus it. I just couldn't draw myself to focus it. So my procrastination, I spent in the garden. I started doing landscape gardening and just digging and pushing stuff around and doing all that. And it kind of got me physical enough to sort of calm myself down into a little Zen-like state, so I could get into the production again. But I started to it started off slow, but then I started to rev up, and then I just wanted to make things all the time. And for me, the procrastination, I love that part. I love the kind of the working out and the, you know, for writing the structures and the beat making and everything. I love that part. In fact, when I'm working now on even if it's a mix or a remix, I'll often stop and then procrastinate on something else for a little while to come back to it. So I think procrastination for me can be used as something positive as well, just to kind of go off and do something else and come back to it.
I've just seen a comment from Facebook, so I'll put it up. This is right. So, Oblique Strategies. Have either of you heard of this?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. So this is like basically a tool that gets used in studios quite a lot. I think it was it Brian Eno that
Bowie did it as well. Eno and Bowie were.
So it's a set of cards that are kind of updated quite regularly, but it's essentially a pack of cards, and it sits in the studio on the desk or something, right? And so you grab one of the cards when you get to a point where you can't get any further in the song or in the project or whatever, or everyone's procrastinating, and it's got kind of all of these like really kind of weird statements on the card.
You told me about that.
Yeah. So it's like,
I remember you telling me about them. Yeah.
We've got a set of it next door, and so it'll say things like, you know, concentrate on the quietest thing in the song, or something like that. I've just been told there's also an app of it now. Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Brian knows. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's basically a set of cards that was invented by Brian Eno, and I didn't even know there was an app, so I'm going to download the app because that's
well. There's the lyric thing as well that Bowie did. So you'll just write out lyrics, chop them up, and then repurpose them. They don't have to rhyme, nothing. They're just there as statements, and you just get a completely different, obscure way of saying something and going to a point without it being like invented by you. That's kind of interesting. Have you ever tried that, Cassell? Have you ever tried that?
No, but I'm going to download that app. I'm going to try it, give it a try. Now I know it's an app, saving on the paper and everying. That's all good. So I'm
don't do it now. Don't do it now. You'll be going out for a jog in a minute.
Yeah.
Leave the building.
But, I just want to go quickly back to something you were saying, because you were saying about how you went into the garden and everything. I did the same thing. I painted all my fences. I cleared up all my garden. I didn't do anything. Do you know what? I didn't do anything to do with music when this first lockdown happened, because I was so uninspired. So I went and did stuff in the house. I just got my studio built, so we were doing stuff in the studio, but building stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. It was nothing really to do with music, and that all came later. Once I started to get a bit more focused, then I was, slightly, because like you, I was supposed to be touring. I shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
I should be on tour. Do you know what I mean? I should be on tour of the streets. We had all these dates, and they all just got either cancelled or moved. So they moved to September, but then who knows what's going to happen when we get to September. So basically, even though as a musician, I circle what I do. So if I'm either doing live work, I'm doing production work, songwriting, or I go to Hong Kong and I do workshops. I kind of circle around a few areas, and then all of a sudden, I had just one area to do, which was being in the studio. And then on top of that, people weren't coming to the studio because they weren't allowed. So it was like, then I had to learn how to work online. And even though I'd done it a little bit, it wasn't a main part of my production. Like, I find it weird working, even though I do it, I like people here in the studio and working in real
bounce off. Yeah.
So online is a bit.
Yeah.
So sorry, go on. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I find live feeds the production. That's why I love going live and just having that live thing and mixing live and meeting the bands and getting ideas and having that interaction with that live situation. I'll quite often write for a live situation for a band, and not having that around me is you're then kind of in this weird place of like trying to imagine what it's like, because luckily I'd be able to test things out live, test mix out live, and stick it in a club and see if it works or whatever. But it's not happening, and that information isn't there. So that's been difficult. Do you find that difficult, not having that live element and it feeding your production?
Yeah, because a lot of my production is mixed between like if I'm working in the studio anyway, I'm mixing live with program. I don't really do stuff where it's all programmed. There would be guitars in it, and then my best friend would come down and we would sit together and we would make up stuff, and that's how we still do it. I mean, I can still do that now because the studio is big enough and we can still social distance anyway if we need to. But I think that's just important. The live aspect just brings a different dimension to your production, and it makes you different because not everybody does it. Like, some people are just in the box, electronic or whatever, which works, but for the stuff that I do, and even when I do electronic music and all that, that just gives you that little extra element that no one else is doing, or not a lot of people are doing, so I find it really important I need that live thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was pretty. I basically had to reinvent myself. I had to reinvent myself and reinvent my business and how to work online and how to work with people online, not in the studio and stuff.
Are you drumming in your studio? Are you still rehearsing? Are you getting?
My drums are set up. And another thing, I didn't have my drums set up. I had to go and get them because they were in lockup. I couldn't get them at the time, and I didn't even want to do drums. I mean, it was really, I just had I wasn't inspired. And then I got because I haven't got a divider in here, but then I realized I didn't need it anyway because I was either playing drums or I was doing production. So now my studio is a lot bigger. But I ended up, I didn't want it to be loud when I was playing drums as well. Because when I actually do practice, I get addicted and I'm practicing for ages. So I didn't want things to be loud. So I bought these new Remo, they go over the skin. I could show you them, but they're like meshes.
Yeah.
And no matter how hard you hit, they only go to a certain level, which is really good. So I've got them all on my drums at the back. So yeah, I eventually set up my drum kit, but I mean, I need to just get that into my routine because I'm not practicing as much as I used to. And the thing I always say when I go on tour is, oh man, I need to practice more. I wish I practiced more when I had the time. I've got the time. Am I practicing?
I've heard you say that so many times.
Am I practicing? No, I'm not. But what I've been doing is I've been doing strengthening things. So I've been just practicing doubles and rudiments and things to strengthen. It's almost like doing gym because every time I start, like even when I go to start rehearsals with the streets, it is like doing gym every day. So you're conditioning your body. So I thought, all right, let me just if I'm not going to actually practice as in grooves and stuff like that, let me just keep my strength up. So I've been not necessarily been on the drums, but I'll just get a pillow and I'll get my click track on my iPad and I'll just do doubles at different tempos. Yeah. Like for a minute, starting with the right hand and with the left hand, then, and just doing all like singles and just doing them for a minute. By the time I finished, I would have done maybe 30 minutes of just rudiments.
And you find it sharpens your mind as well.
Yeah, it sharpens my mind and it makes me feel, all right, I have done something to do with drums because I don't want to go back and be totally useless when I go back to rehearsing. I will get back into it and I'll just, I'm going to make it a part of my routine. But even when I'm doing with my personal trainer, he'll put it as a part of my routine now. And he'll say, right, go on the drums and play as fast as you can for 2 minutes. And you just got to keep it up. So it's just strengthening. Yeah. So I'm just going mad for 2 minutes, but it doesn't feel hard to me because I'm used to doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm actually practicing, and even the whole thing of just knowing where your toms are and getting to the places in time and stuff is good for that. So now all I have to do is just put in proper practice in my routine, which I haven't done yet. But I'll get there. I'm just.
So do you do that thing where it's not necessarily practice? It's just for you. It's just something like almost like spiritual for you that you need to get to your instrument. Otherwise, there's something missing in your life.
Yeah, sometimes if I get stressed out, I need to just play the drums, and then I forget about everything. I can forget about everything for that time I'm playing the drums.
Yeah.
You just everybody needs to be able to do that, man. Because that's why you need to get some structure. Because if you don't, you're thinking about things that can go wrong. Oh, what happens if I don't make enough money to pay my bills? And you start thinking about all these things, and it just consumes you and it takes over your life.
Yeah, so you need part of the brain, definitely.
Yeah, you need to, and then you start feeling really negative. And even though everything isn't rosy in my life like that, because I'm doing stuff that's constructive, I can feel positive about everything. And I'm just finding the more I feel positive, the more things are just happening that are positive. I'll get somebody calling me, do you want to work with me and do this? Things I couldn't even think about, where I would have wasted all my time sitting there worrying and being negative, and something might come through anyway. So what's the point of worrying about it in the first place? You know what I mean? Keep yourself in a positive frame of mind, and just see what happens.
Yeah. No, I think it's essential. I think it's good for the soul as much as anything. I had a friend who was making music, and for some reason he had to stop, and it just said he just felt incomplete. He just needed to do that thing, even if it was not for going like nothing, just for himself, just to do that thing was enough. And it just it was like a lovely spiritual moment, and it just heightened him. I think it's important to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the next thing that was on my list of things that kind of slowed down my creativity, slowed down kind of me being productive at all, actually, was kind of around the idea of not really feeling supported. I kind of, in my regular day-to-day life a year ago, I would be on tour half the time. I would be in venues all the time. I'd be in studios. I'd see, I don't know, 100 people a week that are people that I saw all the time, and you could kind of get feedback from them. You could run ideas past them, all of that. And I really felt like when the lockdown thing happened to start with, I kind of felt like it was okay. But then the more it sort of went on and on and on and on, I kind of felt like I was just really missing people. And so in the newsletter, I kind of spoke about how important it was for me to reach out to like my friends and just talk to them, and also reach out to kind of like-minded people. So if I was working in a music venue, I'd bump into tons of people that were in bands, and it might not be people that I know, but it was kind of, you know, people that where we had a sort of shared understanding of the world, you know. And so you could talk to them about stuff, and that was, I realize now how important that was. And yeah, so actually part of doing this in general came from saying, right, I've been reaching out to all of my friends, I've been reaching out to people I work with, and I can see a benefit in talking to people, and yeah, let's do some of that. So yeah, as Cass.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to remember, because as you was talking about that, I was just looking up a name or something that I wanted to mention.
Okay.
That. But go and say.
But yeah, I was just sort of saying how beneficial it's been, you know, being able to reach out to people and talk to them. Like, and you're actually one of those people on the list for me, and so are you, Peps. So, you know, Peps is somebody that I speak to nearly every day, and yeah, that's really beneficial. And you know, there was definitely a couple of times around Christmas where there was all those additional tiers and lockdowns and stuff where I spoke to both of you, and I know that my life would have been much harder if you guys hadn't have been around, you know. So
likewise, yeah. I think you can't beat company and a team of people, and just to, you know, I mean, what, you know, music in itself is an expression of all the delights and all the kind of stuff you have in your mind anyway. And as a producer, you know, like I do pride myself on having that emotional bond with people. And if you haven't got that with other people, where'd you go?
Yeah,
you know, I think you know, just bouncing off somebody, and you like to show off in a way, but it's not showing off in the kind of like, you know, the big kind of ego. It's like, I've found this and I've done that, and how did you, you know, that kind of instant gratification of finding something amazing and sharing it instantly with somebody who's next to you. That thing that you said, Cass, when you got someone in the room, that dissipates a little bit, and you know, to have that little thing, and it's an emotional, it's a bonding, it's definitely an emotional response to it. And it, you know, whether it's to music or whether it's to whatever, fishing or, you know, or sport or whatever, there's something in that. I'm sure there's a lot of other arts that are feeling it in that sense. The other thing about that as well is the choice. So being in a studio and being locked in and focusing and doing that thing, I love it, right? There's nothing, I love it. I delight in that as well, with all the plugins and just the structure of it all. But I like to choose whether I can go out or not. I like to choose the choice of knowing that I can go somewhere, but not having, I might not do it, but just knowing that I can, and then just having that not being able to is so frustrating.
I mean, like I said, my mind was geared to touring. That's what I was doing. That's my whole diary was getting full up of to do live work. So I was really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to going into rehearsals with the band, with the Streets, and because we have, like, we're lucky that Mike gives us amazing rehearsal time. Like, he'll let us rehearse for like a month or 3 weeks. He really lets the band get in and learn their stuff, and then you're bonding with all the members and everything. So you're seeing them every day, and like everybody in the Streets is so cool, you know, from the band to the manager to everybody, and you miss seeing them all. You know, like you miss they're like your second family. You miss seeing everybody, and even though we've got this group chat, the Streets have got a group chat. It's just, I hate looking at my phone.
Google Chrome.
Oh, sorry.
Produce like a pro.
That's one of my alerts. Anyway, what was I saying? It's not the same. It's not the same as actually seeing people and, you know, like chatting with them and talking about anything, and then doing rehearsals and for hours and really working out the songs and being proud of what you've achieved and stuff. All that's gone. But I've been, like I said, I've been lucky. I've got friends like LeVar, and I have, like LeVar can tell you, there's always a time when I'll be like, Lav, what is going on, man? It's going nuts. I don't know what's going to happen, and I just don't like music, kind of thing. And then the next week we're doing something. Do you know what I mean? But just to like, I'll speak to him on a personal level just about stuff, but then I'll speak to him about musical stuff, and then when we get into that, we're talking about stuff like that forever, and that helps take my mind off everything that was actually happening. And another thing that's been really great, I got asked to join the Ivo Novella songwriting committee, and that was just brilliant. There's so many like-minded people on there who actually know a lot more than me, you know, and I'm just learning off these people, and we're dealing with issues that affect so many musicians, like the whole streaming issue and it not being shared fairly between the songwriters and the artists, and the big labels getting all the profit or most of the profit, and the actual creators not getting anything. It's ridiculous. So, you know, we're talking about that and trying to find a way to change it, and just learning about, you know, even the whole diversity thing, and you know, how like women should be safe in certain environments when they're in the studio. Like the stories that I've heard is crazy, that I didn't even know could happen in a studio, and I'm like, yeah, that definitely shouldn't happen, and people should be aware of that, and that's not acceptable, and things like that. So there's so many positive things that the Ivors are dealing with that, and so I get to talk to all these people, you know, and a lot of them I know. Some, like, there's 2 members that are from my original Quite Sane band that are in there I didn't even know, you know. And then you've got like Kojo, who used to be the MD for when I was doing Plan B. He was the MD, and like, I love Kojo. He's such a good guy, and he's in it, you know. So I'm getting to reconnect with all these people. So that's been great as well. So that's kept me sane.
It's funny, reevaluating streaming. I mean, because you know, from as a producer, as a somebody who makes music and has bands and does that live thing, it's been, you know, a lot of it has been a way of publicizing that, or, you know, the music you might put a video out, or it might be free for people to see, but it will hopefully get them to see the show. You'll go, well, you might lose a bit of streaming, but they'll come and see the show and it will make up for it. But without that live thing, you're kind of like, if that's the only way you're going to be being able to make a living out of it, how's it going to work? So, you know, you have to reevaluate that. You have to think, okay, well, it's not free anymore. It can't be that. If it's not informing the income from a live situation, then it's got to be paid. You've got to get something out of it. I think you know, I know us lot will always win. I know we will always get through, because you always do. You have to be strong and sturdy, and, you know, kind of stubborn in a way of what you do. You are doing, because there's so many things that are there to stop you doing what you love and what you want to do in this world of music and industry. you got to be solid with it, and longevity to me is something very important. But when that happens to somebody that is maybe younger and can't keep going like that, I think that's an issue when there's when you know there are people that might be coming through that just can't deal with that now. Just haven't got that, and you're kind of losing that talent in a way. That I think is we've got to be careful with that, which is why I believe there should be a structure in place so there's room for people earning money to pay the rent to continue to do what they do.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like when you talk about streaming, like the thing is, you need songwriters to have music. Spotify or whatever streaming company, they need these people to have a product to sell. Yet the songwriters get the least money, and I'm just like, how does that even make any sense? It's just like when I first started off doing gigs, the musicians are the most important people, because without the musicians you can't do the gig, but they will be the last people to get paid. I'm just like, this is just all backwards. Do you know what I mean? We need to change the way we think, and mostly for the younger people, to educate them to say, no, it's not right that people treat you like this. You should be treated like this. Do you know what I mean? And so it just changes the whole thinking and I think that the way, like the streaming and all that, the way people get paid, the songwriters and artists needs to be changed. You know what I mean? It needs to level up, or I just think that the creators should be respected more, and they should get a much better profit out of their songs and creativity than they do.
Absolutely.
So, and it's at the moment
almost like it's theft as well, because I always put it, I kind of go, well, it's like going into a shop and someone's prepared to sell you a loaf of bread and it says it's £1, and you go, well, I'll give you 10p, and it's like, no, you won't.
Yeah,
that's what it costs to make. That's what you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But with music, it's like, well, we'll give you 10p, and you're going, well, it's better than nothing, I suppose. I'd better take the 10p.
Yeah. But it's stupid. It's just like songwriters go into sessions, but songwriters don't get paid for the sessions. And I'm just like, they only see an income if the song does well. I mean, not even session musicians do that. Session musicians get paid a session fee. So songwriters should get paid a session fee. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, that's their living. That's the only way they're making their money. People are not treating them properly. And that just needs to change. And it's going to change.
Yeah, well, we can make that change. We can put that into.
That's what I mean. It's about the younger people that are coming up being aware of this and being aware that that isn't the correct way for business to really be done. You know what I mean? And really, we have got more power than we have the power. If we don't make any songs, there's gonna be no record labels. There's gonna be, do you know what I mean? But it's about people being strong enough to make a stand, because you get caught in this thing where if you say the wrong thing, then maybe all of a sudden you don't get work from certain people all of a sudden. So we have to all really be united, and if we're united, then we can make the change. Do you know what I mean?
I think there's exploitation on many levels within different industries. I won't go into detail, but I think if you're writing a piece of music for a film or something, and you're offered a certain amount, but it's going to make a lot more money in the long run, but you need to take that certain amount for the month because that's what you're going to get.
Yeah,
and it's kind of exploited in that way as well.
Of course.
Which I think other industries can support this going forward. I don't think it's just internal. I think it's about everybody respecting that and going, right, we need to make this happen. Because you're right. If without the writers, it's gonna fade.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it will boil down to the same 50 people.
There's an interesting point actually in the chat. I can see all of the chat here as well. So big up Leon and Richard and everybody that's commenting is great. There was a comment here that was interesting. Does helping others help you deal with the situation for yourself? This is just kind of an interesting thing to maybe riff on for a minute.
100%. And I'll tell you why. Even in this lockdown, so my son has been recording his his new like album, and he's asked me to come in, and I'm doing a lot of mixing. I'm doing like the youngest one is doing the production, but then I'm going in and doing a few tweaks. But I'm using their stuff as almost like a guinea pig to learn how to mix better. And that's doing it for somebody completely, different. I mean, if I was on tour, you have less time to do stuff for your kids and stuff. So it's really nice that I can do that. And I'm just learning so much by doing that. But just in general, I just like, because you never know who someone's going to be the next year or the next day. So, somebody that's beginning, you should always take time to learn, to have time for them and help them if you can. Not just because you could have a gain out of it, but it just feels good to, like, if you've got all this knowledge and you can give it to somebody else that's starting off, and they, so they don't make the same mistakes you've made. Isn't that a great thing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I really believe in them things, and I try and do that as much as I possibly can.
I've got a related question that I'd prepared. So yeah, Cass.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this one?
What would I give to young you? One, be more fearless. So don't be scared to do things that you think you can't do. Just go for it. And just do more. Sometimes I feel like sometimes I don't do enough music, or I always like get to the end of the year and I like to look back and say, what have you done? What songs have you got to show for your year? And I mean, it's good normally, but I still feel like I just want to do more. I want to leave a legacy behind. That's what I want to do for myself. And that could be just by being a really good role model in music, being a good mentor, helping people, but doing good music that people like. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not the best drummer in the world, but people just liking what I do. Basically, that's my ambition and my goals, to do them things and make some money doing it.
Make some money, yeah. Peps.
You know what? It's been really, with the whole money thing, it's been so tough. But you know what? There's things like PRS. They did a kind of fund that really helps me out. It wasn't loads of money, but I tell you, when you got no money, that little money is everything. And they're doing some good things. There are funds that, like, a lot of musicians don't even know are out there, like the Arts Council, PRS, and there's a lot of support. I always give a lot of support to young musicians. People don't know about them. Do you know
I'm going to take the time to say that there's actually the Floor have got a creator fund as well. Okay. So there's actually essentially grants of £500 for creators that get in touch. There's so I think it opens again at the end of the month. There'll be an application form, and there'll be a couple of £500 grants given out to people that we think of doing something great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which is actually really cool. We're shooting some profiles next week with in January 4 awards were given out to creators across like a whole bunch of different disciplines, and we're going and shooting some bits and pieces with them and profiling what they do. And just being part of something like that is really positive.
It's amazing.
Before we move on, I could see that Peps wanted to tell me what he would advice he would give to his younger self. So I'm going to put that one back on the screen. Bring Peps back over, and Peps, talk to us.
So the younger me, I would say to the younger me, just have faith, keep going. You're going to be fine. And there's going to be you're going to do some amazing things. That would be, I would entice the younger me to keep going.
You have kept going.
I wouldn't say what it is, but I'd say just keep it going, because there's going to be some amazing stuff happening.
Okay, so I've got a couple more things before we kind of wind this up. Obviously, we've mainly talked about how 2020 was kind of bad in a lot of ways, but I don't think it was completely bad. I don't think it was a complete write-off. There were definitely some things that I've done, habits that I've created that hopefully I can keep going and will be part of my life for now. So I've kind of made a question that's a bit like that. And I'd like to hear from both of you as to whether or not there are things that happened over the last year that actually have been beneficial to you and you'd like to keep as part of your life.
Oh, totally. Shall I?
Yeah, you start, Peps. I'm always starting. You go.
First of all, lockdown. It meant I've had so much more time with family, especially my wife, Eugenie. And we work a lot. We do a lot of things, and we kind of bump, and we've raised kids and done all, we've done all that stuff and gone through so many things. But without that time, we wouldn't have never have spent that amount of time, this amount of time, this close together. That just wouldn't have happened, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's like a major thing for me, which would not have in my life have had that amount of time with my family like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I feel the same. Like, oh man, like in my younger days, I used to tour all the time, and my oldest son, I missed out a lot on his growing up because I was always on tour. The other two weren't so bad, but what's been good about this lockdown, you do get a lot of time to spend with your family, more than you've ever had. Even you don't need to, it's not about like being in the room and talking to them and being active all the time. It's just knowing that they're in the house at the same time as you. Normally everybody's everywhere, but everybody's in the house. I've had time to be like work with my son on his project, and that's been really good, even though sometimes he still has to pester me. But the point is, once we're doing it, it's a great thing. Even realizing how amazing and talented they are. Do you know what I mean? Because like my youngest son, his production skills are just mad. I'm looking at him sometimes thinking, well, how did you do that? And you know what I mean? He's just doing some crazy stuff. And like, and then like my daughter as well, she's released 2 singles that I've done with her while we've been in lockdown. She's released 2 singles. She's not here now because she's in Newcastle now. She got a really major role. So she's up there for 6 months doing this dumping grounds thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's got a major part in that now, so she's filming for that. But like I had a chance to work with them on, because it makes you realize how much you really influence them, especially when it comes to the music, how much I've influenced them and how much they need to be like, oh, Dad, what do you think of this? And how do you do this? And, I taught my son about gain staging the other day. Do you know what I mean? And now he's using that in all of he's only 15 and he's using all that stuff in his production now. So yeah, just getting that quality time has been amazing. Something else, like even from last year, like I started doing the gym, I never did that. I never went on walks. I never did any of that stuff. And that's been like a big plus for me. Another thing that I did is I set up a thing called In the Making last year, which is an artist development scheme. And basically it gives people that can't afford to go in the studio and want to work with me, they can come on this course and basically get the time to work with me. We sit down, talk about what they want to do as an artist, where they want to direct their career. We produce 2 songs and write 2 songs together. I can bring in all my network. So then I'll bring LeVar in to come in and talk about mixing and talk about the techniques. I'll bring Paola, who used to be the marketing director for Adidas. Now she's my manager, but she comes in and she talks to them about branding. They get to work with the musicians that I work with because they come in on the sessions. Do you know what I mean? And then now joining the Ivors, I can even, hopefully we'll be getting some of the songwriters on the Ivors to come in and work with them. So they're going to be getting access to all this stuff that isn't necessarily easily accessible. Yeah. So that's something that I did it last year. The Arts Council backed me and PRS backed me to do it. and it was such a success. So now Ivor's are partnered up with me to do it in a bigger scale. So it's going to be for the whole of the UK now this time round.
Amazing. I love that.
So that's really inspiring me because, you know, I work with people that are signed and people that have made it, but I like to work with people that are up and coming because they're the future and they're the raw. They come out with the raw ideas. It's just so. I learn so much. Like they come to learn off me, and yeah, they do. But then I learn so much off them as well because they have unorthodox methods to doing things which are cool and are new, and they, you know, it keeps my production all fresh because I'm working with these young talented people. So that's something that I'm so passionate about, and I'm so happy that it's gonna carry on. And also now that I've got something that's centered around me, because as a musician I'm always maybe doing somebody else's project or in somebody else's band. When you do that, I love it, it's great, but when you do that, if that artist decides to take a break, you have to find something else to do. So I don't want to be in that position. Lockdown's been a really even bigger eye opener for me, like, because obviously it's not the street's fault why we can't tour, but I'm in that situation where it's like, all right, well, we're not touring. What do? You need something of your own. So that's why I actually started that last year, you know, to have something of my own that I believe in. So yeah, I'm glad that's gonna hopefully take precedent in what I do now.
Well, that's a feel good factor for you as well.
Oh man, it's the best feeling in the world. It's to do something and see, like, because I've had people like when I did the run of ITM last year, I had kids coming from the unis doing it, and even though I can't compare ITM to the unis because they have all different kind of red tape and guidelines they have to cover. So it's not just about going and experiencing music, and they've got all these other guidelines they have to. So ITM and the uni are completely different. But I found that the kids that came to do it from uni are like, I've learned so much more than I learned in the uni.
Yeah.
But that's only because they were actually physically doing what. When I went to uni to do music, I thought I'd be in the studio and I'd be hands-on doing, you know, creating, and it wasn't like that. You know, there's a lot of other stuff you had to do, which you have to do. But when they come with me, they're actually working on real life things that they've been signed and they're an artist. They're producing their music. We try and do the whole thing, produce their music, because I find that the music is the easiest thing to do. The hardest thing is to promote the music. So that's where all the branding and, you know, the styling and how you're going to present yourself comes in. And I say to the kids that come in, think of yourself like a brand. That's how you've got to think of yourself. I'm Cassell the Beatmaker. That's my brand. Yeah, build your brand. Think of it more on business terms as well as creative. You've got to be business. So even if you have a lawyer, still know about stuff to do with legal stuff, because when they're speaking about it, at least you'll know you might not know if you think about the legals, but you'll know what it's about. You'll understand it a bit more to learn about. They're all important things. So these are all the things that I'm incorporating in this ITM thing. So that's something I'm really proud about, and something that I'm happy that it's going to go to a higher level as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So Cass,
sorry.
I was going to say that takes me on to like literally the next question there.
Mm-hmm. ITM.
There we go.
Working with young people. What excites me? What excites me is what's going to happen when we can play live again, because it's going to go mad, isn't it? It's got to. No one's been able to go to any shows, so that means you're going to be doing loads of shows. You know, I'm looking forward to playing live again. But what else excites me is just now I'm just doing new things. I'm learning new things that I would have never had the time to do. You know, I would have never had time to learn more about my software. I was just using the things I know, but now I can use the things I know and learn more about them. So that excites me, you know, because I've never had the time to do it. I've been sitting there thinking, oh, what am I going to do? And I'm being depressed. And then I'm like, hold on a minute, I've got all this time. I can do it. You're not always going to want to do it, but you've got a chance to do it. So I've taken that opportunity. But then also, like, you know, when I first started, I got Nintendo Switch. I had never used it until the lockdown. You know, Laval will tell you I've had it for like over a year, and I've never really played any games, but I got a chance to play that, which is good because it was a chance to do something completely different from music. You know, I never really had it was always music, or everything I did was always music. I didn't have any other hobbies or anything else that I did. And then I found Zelda, and then I got addicted to Zelda. I'm still playing Zelda, and I love it. So like, it gives me some me time, I suppose.
It's so funny. I'm like the geekiest person ever, and would endlessly tell like Cass, "Oh, you should play this game. It's really good. You'll really enjoy it." And then he never would.
Like, I've got no time for no games.
Now he's phoning me up and telling me, "Oh, you know, Zelda 2's coming out on it." It's like, oh wow, okay, things have changed.
But that you know what, that game saved me, because like in the lockdown with the whole, I didn't get did I get depressed? I probably got depressed and didn't realize it, but I was really uninspired and really down. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have had anything to do, and that would have made it worse. So when I did, like, there was some time where I just spent days just playing that, and that's all I did, you know. But then obviously I got myself out because I needed to get back and do the music. But it was a good time for me just to, it was stop me from worrying about stuff, because I was too busy thinking about playing this game and how to do all these things. So it took my attention somewhere else. But I knew, I mean, you can only do that for a certain amount of time until you're like, I need to do music, and I got that urge. It kind of gave me a reset almost to want to be in the studio and be excited about getting back in the studio.
I certainly feel grateful that I've got that in me to do. It's a gift I've always, it's been in me. I think, you know, looking forward in 5 years from now, this isn't going to leave us. This is always going to be part of us. And we're always going to be in the, you know, we could be in a field somewhere with a bunch of people jumping up and down going, do you remember when we couldn't?
Yeah.
It's always going to be there.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've kind of got to wrap up a bit, because it's, I said 45 minutes to an hour, and it's now been an hour and 10 minutes. And to be honest, like, I feel like I could talk to you for another hour. So
yeah, it's interesting.
At some point in a couple of months' time, do you want to do it again? Like, yeah, that'd be cool. Before you go, we've been asking pretty much everybody that we've been talking to about the first album they bought, the last album they bought, and an album that they'll always play, just because it's kind of interesting. Peps, I'm going to have to miss you on this one, and we'll do this on the next one.
No. Go for it.
Cass, what you got?
Oh man, my first album, Michael Jackson, Destiny. My last album, Liam Bailey. That artist, he's an artist. Check him out, Liam Bailey. He's amazing. I actually co-wrote one of the songs on there, but I hadn't heard the album. And man, because I bought the digital copy and I bought the vinyl. It's out on digital and it's out on vinyl. And I bought them both, obviously. Liam, I'm going to support him. But when I played the album, I was ringing him up, like, going, what's going on? Like, this is so good. Like, I was really into it. It has a nice mixture. He's got like reggae influences in there. He's got like ska influences. He's got almost like punky influence. It's just, I just love it. I've been listening to stuff and it all sounds the same. And then I listened to his stuff and I was like, oh man, this is just a breath of fresh air. He's got an amazing voice. You'll know Liam from he's featured on Chasing Status and stuff, and he's just amazing. And another person that's got something really good coming out is Josh Barry. And again, me and you and Lav have worked on that. And Josh Barry's amazing.
Josh is actually going to do a bunch of stuff on the floor as well. So he's going to kind of host a weird kind of show interviewee thing on here. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be, but it's going to be amazing. But yeah,
amazing guy.
His music
in the flesh
is amazing.
Yeah.
And let me give a quick plug. Go and check out my daughter's tracks, Halliana, Fly. She's had a track called Fly Out, and what was her last one? See the World. She's really surprised me because she started writing, and for a 13-year-old, the stuff she's writing about is crazy. And my oldest son, he goes by the name of Richie. He's got his album out, which his brothers produced most of the stuff in. 808 Mellow, or Mellow 808, as that's my nephew. He's done a few tracks for him as well. So it's kind of in the drill kind of hip hop kind of region. Go and check them out, man. Please support all the artists that I've just mentioned, because they're all good and they need us. They need us. They're doing a lot of stuff by themselves, and they're amazing. Also, one other person, can't forget Max Stone as well. That's another artist that I've just co-produced and been working on with Levi. He's an amazing singer. He's just totally amazing. Go and support him as well. There's probably loads of other people, but they're the people that I can just think that comes to mind right now.
Okay, well, you answered 2 of the 3 questions there, but that's fine. We'll come back to that another time. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
Cassell the Beatmaker Insta. To come and just send me a message. If you want to know anything, you want me to listen to your music, if you want any advice, I'll do my best. Don't be afraid to hit me up. Add me. I need more followers.
I think that's actually quite a cool thing. Is a lot of people that I've kind of worked with over the years, where everyone's like, oh yeah, well, they've worked on this and that, they won't even talk to me. They all will. Like, you know, you're definitely somebody that's super supportive of anybody that gets in touch that's actually got something cool to say, you know.
And the thing is, I forget what I've done. I don't like people. Like, I did a talk with Hertfordshire University the other day, and the lady that asked me to do it, I asked her, how did you even hear about me? And then she's telling me she's been following me for years, and she's naming all the things that I've done, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've done them things. I forgot. I never really, you know, the achievements I don't always remember. Sometimes I spend too much time thinking about things I haven't achieved, and yeah, it's really nice when people remind you about things you've done, or ways you've changed their life, or stuff you've played on that's changed their life. It's really humbling, and I feel honored that these people are even talking to me. So when people do like message me, I'm honored. I sometimes say I'm honored. It doesn't matter if I've never heard of them before. The fact that they've messaged me, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. So yeah, I'm not on that whole stardom rubbish. It just never works anyway.
But anyways, yeah, it's been, as always, like, great to talk to you.
I really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed it.
Great to actually introduce you to Peps as well.
Yeah, lovely guy, Cassell.
I wanted to. It's a shame because I wanted Peps to talk about how he's been recording vocals on the mobile, and I wanted to know more about that stuff. Like,
do you know what? Like, these talks and stuff, I don't really know what they're going to be. You know, so if there's anybody in the chat, I mean, I can see the people in the chat on the site. I can see people in the Facebook. If there's anybody that's got any suggestions of things that they want to see, so if they want to see something like, you know, a little bit of a drum workshop or some production techniques, or, you know, something about filmmaking or photography or whatever it is, just let us know. Do you know what I mean? I've put me and Peps have both got floor emails that are probably going across the bottom at the moment. And yeah, if there's anything that you actually want to see, then we'll do it. There aren't really any rules. We'll get Cass back to talk about some production stuff, and there's about a million other things that he's done. He's a pretty humble guy, but there's actually a million other things that he's done that are pretty amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, get in touch. It's good to talk. It really is good to connect. It's very rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed this. I mean, this is my first time on this platform, and I've had a brilliant time. I definitely would want to do this again. It's been an amazing experience, and thank you guys for having me.
Oh, pleasure.
So yeah, thank you to the people in the chat. Thank you to the people in the Facebook. I can see some of you. Thanks to Peps. Thanks to Cass.
Thank you, LeVar.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.